Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know who this be, it's your girl Kyler B coming at you with a new video. So today we're going to be doing another recap review video. Yes, I know this is like maybe my 5th or 6th recap video, but this show needs to be talked about. So anyway, this recap video is going to be on the TV show Love is Blind, The Experiment. That's on Netflix. It's basically a Netflix original. And the show is basically like a reality show with Nick and Vanessa Lachey hosting it to determine if, the question, is love blind? So they have these contestants to try basically this social experiment. Let me just get right into this video and let's go. So the first episode, they introduced it. It's a social experiment, basically a dating show, but also a social experiment. And then they have the girls on one side of the house, the guys on one side of the house, but they never saw each other at all. So they're basically like this show reminds me of Love Island and Are You the One? Like, that's how the show reminds me of, because it's like Love Island is like you're in a house trying to make connections, and you're talking to different people's speed dating on that show. And then Are You the One? You're trying to find your perfect match. So it kind of like is a mixture of the two. Oh, in a sense. So the first episode, so this social experiment is that you're not able to see the person you're talking to. So you're just making an emotional connection through what they call the pods. So they call them the pods, They go on these dates in the pods and you're talking to each other, blah, 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 making this connection. So in the first episode, they really focused on Cameron and Lauren. They focused on Cameron and Lauren and Nick, Jessica, and Barnett. Those were like the main focus, like on the first episode. Like they introduced the experiment, and then they like focus on those characters, not characters, those contestants, people in the show, So off the bat, that Lauren and Cameron have, connection. Then you also know that Jessica, Mark, did I say Nick? I meant Mark. Jessica, Mark, and Barnett. Mark had a connection with Barnett. Mark had a connection with Jessica, and Barnett had a connection with Jessica. So both of them, and she both had connections with both of these people. Well, also, Barnett had connections with Amber and Elsie. Also, you have like these random people, contestants. That's like gonna be interchangeable, but you also have these like random contestants on the show that like they don't show you that they're interested in anybody. They're just like there because they're trying to test it as everybody else. So you have this guy named Rory. He became like basically a therapist to Damien and Barnett. I'm like, who's this guy, talking to these two people? So Rory's like, he told, Barnett to try to like figure out his options, or like figure out who he wants, who has the strongest connection with. And then Damien, Rory told Damien, like to breathe, when he's trying to propose to one of his people. So yeah, in this show, I forgot to say that you make the connection with someone that you've never seen before. And then you have to, if the connection is so strong, the person has to propose to that person that they have the strong connection with. And then you have 4 weeks to get married. So it's make a connection with you never seen that person, and then you get to finally see them after you're engaged to them, and then in 4 weeks you have to get married, you know, and that's the whole experiment basically. So it's very, as Giannina said, life condensed. So basically, first episode, Lauren and Cameron, they had a, emotional connection. They're basically like their number ones. Like, you didn't really see Lauren with any, you didn't see Lauren with any other dude. You didn't see Cameron with any other girl. It was basically perfect match. Second episode, you also see these two people, Diamond and Carlton. I'll get to them later, but they made a match. So someone asked me like, oh, how many like black people were on the show? There was quite a few black people, but you gotta understand, this is an experiment. Like, they didn't expect everybody to come out with a perfect match or come out with somebody that they really liked. Because at the end of the day, it was only 6 couples who got engaged, and only 5 of them continued on with the engagement. So it's like, and then only out of the 5 who continued on the engagement, only 2 actually got married. So it's just like, out of this like experiment, only 2 people were successful. 2 sets of people, were successful in, this whole experiment is love line that they keep on, referencing throughout the whole entire show. So there is a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of drama, because it was little to none, like, between contestants, there was little to none, no drama. There was like some things happening for sure, so Cameron and Lauren were the first people to get engaged. Then Simon and Carlton was the next people to get engaged. Then Kelly and Kenny to get engaged. And then it was Nina and Damien to get engaged. And then it was, I believe it was Amber and Barnett. And then Mark and Jessica. Those are the 6 couples to get engaged. So when they get engaged, they're able to see each other and see like, oh, who was the person I was talking to in these pods. So they saw each other for the first time, and they were happy with what they see, and they continue to pursue the relationship, because I believe Mark, he proposed twice. He proposed in the pods, and he proposed outside of the pods. And there's like some drama. Let me get down to it. Let me get down to the drama of this whole. It's like minuscule drama, but it's still something. Jessica was very cringe, to say the least. She was very cringe, very wishy-washy, very, flip-floppy. There were some people that surprised me, like Kelly, for sure. Kelly seemed down to earth, and she turned out to be so superficial in the end, which is just like, whoa, like, you were so down to earth. You thought like, oh, we're just doing our own thing, and then girl was superficial at the end of the day, and it was just like, what? Confusing. So Barnett, there's this Barnett thing, because Barnett was having connections with Jessica, Amber, and LC. He turned down LC. He told Jessica that, he just said it like he had a wrong choice of words, as what he said, that, he could marry her as of now, which to Jessica was like, oh my gosh. So she was talking to Mark, so she was like, oh, should I like end things with Mark? So she went and end things with Mark, thinking like, oh yes, Barnett's my number one. We're both number ones on the same level. Then next night, she asked him if he had the same feelings, and he was like, I don't know. So after that being said, she like stormed out on him, basically was so done with him, went to Amber, basically told Amber, oh, he's trash, don't talk to him again, he doesn't know what he wants, blah, 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 because she got rejected by him. So since she got rejected by him, Amber, who's in this thing, having emotional and personal connection with Barnett, has to stop her relationship with, him, because you did not end up, like, not all the people who's having this relationship with Barnett is gonna, end up being with him at the end of the day. Somebody's going to. So, if it wasn't you, Amber's chances of being with Barnett, is even greater than before, than the three people trying to get Barnett. So it was between Amber and LC. So at the end of the day, Jessica ran back to Mark and was like, "Oh, Mark, I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh, I was so stupid." And then Mark was like, I know my worth. Like, you can't be flip flopping and because I'm the second option, for you and stuff like that. And the thing about it, she always keeps on referencing that Mark is 24, Jessica is 34. So she keeps on referencing the 10-year age gap, which is, it's something to reference, what I'm saying. But then there's always a thing, they're both of age. They can do what they want to do. If you keep on just staring at the age gap, that's as your hindrance is kind of like to each their own. Like, you keep on referencing the age gap. Like, she really grilled Mark outside of the, when they like get to, interact outside. She really grilled him like, oh, what about kids? Blah, blah, blah. I'll be 60 and you'll be, you'll be 50. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, like, how are you gonna, like, when you think of a 50 and 60 age range, when someone has kids, you don't really think of it as much. Like, yeah, it's 10 years, but they're both of age. As, Mark's been referencing, everybody else been referencing. Like, one of her friends even said, like, look at Priyanka and Nick Jonas. Like the big age gap. Like, Priyanka is older than Nick Jonas and they're doing fine. So with that, with the whole Jessica Barnett Amber situation, LC got left in the dust, which was, kind of sad, but, he had to pick one and he chose Amber, so that's good. They didn't really go too deep on Kelly and Kenny's, like, relationship in the pod so much. Like, they did show, like, a good 10 to 15 minutes of, their relationship. And then Damien and Giannina's relationship, orgy, as they say, in the show, was really good. Giannina is kind of like, she's such a strong, independent woman, and, like, what happened to her in the end just sucked. At the end of, like, I did watch, the first 15 minutes of the reunion, so I do know what else happens at the end. But what happens at the, official ending of the show kind of sucked for her, because there's so much. So as that being said, Jessica, let's go back to Jessica. She's very a wishy-washy character, because even after being engaged to Mark, she keeps on, at like any event, going back to Barnett, like, oh, questioning his decision with Amber. Like, oh, I totally wouldn't see you and Amber being together. Like, why are you with Amber? Like, just grilling him on, like, why he chose Amber. Like, oh, that's not the person I really chose for you. The thing is that she never saw Barnett, how he seemed, like, how he's physically looking. He never, like, she knows who Amber is, but, like, oh, I never would have picked that for you. And just, like, keeps on digging throughout the whole, course of the show. Like, why is, he with Amber? And so until Barnett kind of called Jessica out on her, I guess not really her wishy-washiness, to say the least, but it's not really, he didn't really, like, explicitly call it that. He was just saying that, she was very drunk one night, and she was all over on Barnett. So Barnett was like, are you okay? Or, I'm like, he called her out on it, and she was like, oh my gosh, that's not how I seemed, I'm good with Mark, and blah, blah, blah. So as soon as I heard about it, and, like, said that, Amber felt some type of way about it, she was like, she really, like, got in the zone, and she was just like, I'm so 100% Mark, blah 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 blah, I'm happy for you, all this extra stuff, when deep down she was trying so hard to try to be with Barnett. And it shows you, like, Barnett, like, throughout whatever happens with Amber, he a real one, he's gonna stay with Amber, to the end. So that's what I gotta say about that. Like I said, the six couples got engaged from outside of not seeing each other. So that was basically passing, his love line social experiment, because they all agree to an engagement. So outside, they go on this little mini vacation. All the couples go on a mini vacation to Mexico. And then, they didn't know that they were all going to the same resort or the same place. So, like, later on, the host, Nick and Vanessa Lachey, told them, and, like, they all meet up, and, like, they all got to see, the girls got to see the other guys that they didn't, got engaged to, and the guys got to see the girls that they didn't get engaged to. So, in Mexico, some people did some stuff, other people didn't do some stuff. Things went down. Giannina and Damien, Giannina, like, she had, like, her moments of outbursts and stuff like that. And, Damien is, like, basically, I wouldn't say an uptight dude, but kind of like an uptight dude. And then Giannina is, like, kind of free-spirited and stuff like that. So she might, like, snap and, like, I think it was one time, this is at post Mexico, but she literally, like, went off on Damien, which was like, oh, okay. So, but as I was saying, like, she like goes off and stuff like that, and, like, I wouldn't say, like, Cameron's more of a nonchalant type of dude, than Damien. Damien's also, like, sit back type thing, but he's more uptight about it, like, So, and then she's not. So, I mean, Cameron's just very nonchalant, very, like, calm. Like, you never saw him, like, get upset anytime. And it's like, that's fine. But, so they're in Mexico, they're having fun. Jessica was being, very wishy-washy from the start. Like, that's red flag number one. Mark was very adamant about his decision with Jessica. Like, he did state facts that he's like, I proposed to you not once but twice. I proposed to you behind the pods, and I proposed to you in person. You said yes twice, and then now she's having reservations. And the thing about it is, like, how are you having reservations? I'm saying? Like, I understand, like, this is very quick, is moving like this. Like, only 10 days in that little small house, and then you go to Mexico for maybe, like, 3-4 days. I don't know. And then next thing you know, you have to go to Atlanta and live in a little apartment, up until your wedding day. So, and then they get to see, like, their reality and, like, how they live, as a person. So, get to meet the parents, get to meet, everybody there. Mexico, the only big thing that happened in Mexico was Diamond and Carlton. As I said, only 5 people ended up, having a wedding, and only 2 ended up getting married. So Carlton said he withheld information from the pods that he has, been with both genders. So he withheld that information, didn't tell Diamond that. Then, he proposed to Diamond. She said yes. Then when they got to Mexico, he was acting a little kind of way, which was just like, let me just set up the scenario. They're having this conversation, and then dude was like, oh, you're crazy. And he's like, oh, you're lucky you're pretty, blah, blah, blah. And then he was like, you're lucky you're pretty because I would have punched it. So Diamond was like, what do you mean? Watch your words. Because I guess he's meant punched it as I would punch my ticket and leave. Like, Yeah, like those choice of words weren't good in that same sentence, those same things. So he was acting a little weird, acting a little distant. So at the end of the night, he confessed, his past to her, and it was a lot because you knew that information, didn't tell me, and then you basically were engaged now, planning on having a wedding, and that's like a big part of your life that you just haven't told me. So she needed a night to sleep on it. She comes back, in the morning and decides to speak to him. She could have left. She could have left up and leave him, up and like been like bye. So she decides to go talk to Carlton. Carlton, decides to play the victim, and yeah, like you have to own that up. He decides to play the victim. He also says that, oh, any other girl, and like all the other girls didn't have a problem with this, situation. And she was like, I'm not any other girl, what I'm saying? Like, I'm engaged to you, I'm about to be your wife, and, why are you getting all defensive? Like, he's getting defensive, and he's like, oh, you're not any other girl. So she decides to take off the engagement ring. So he got even madder. They're like, he's getting defensive. She was basically calm, and then he called her a B word. So as soon as he called her a B word, she just was like, what? She got up, threw a drink in his face, and then, like walked away and cursed him off. He was basically saying, oh, you're ignorant, blah, blah, blah. She's acting like a typical, stereotypical black person. Because they're both black. So Carlton's black, Diamond's black. So, because how she went. She didn't react it until you called her a B word. She was trying to, converse with you, trying to understand why you didn't, said that information when we were in, back in the pod. So why you didn't give me that information now? And she was saying, like, you probably played the system, not the system, but played the experiment to your way, because imagine if they end up getting married and then he still hadn't told her that information. Then they're married, and then she finds out, and it's just like, what? And it was just very messy. So that couple just no longer is on the board to get engaged, so they all left. And then now we're in Atlanta, we got all the 5 remaining couples, meeting parents. Really went off, like, in a public setting, not even in a, like, private setting, like, in a public setting, talking, like, because, Damien had an awkward encounter with, Lauren, which was, like, it was kind of awkward, like, but it was, like, it could have been, like, brushed off, but, like, Giannina was just not having it, so she, like, walked away from the situation, and then it kind of felt weird, so she, like, had to talk to Damien about it. Come down to the wedding day, which is, like, the wedding day is just, like, what happened between Giannina and Damien was just, like, what? So Damien's, like, before the wedding, he was like, oh, if you don't put your, give me your 100%, you can lose me. He told her that, saying that, oh, because she wasn't putting, I guess he felt like she wasn't putting her 100% in to the relationship. So up until the wedding, like, oh yeah, they're good, everything's good with them, blah, 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 blah. Talking to his friends, but when he's, like, ready dressed, getting ready to go down the aisle, wait for Giannina. So they got Giannina, saying the I do, like, being able to say the I do or whatever, giving her decision first. So Giannina, pours her heart out to Damien, oh my gosh, this and this and that. And then, everything good. Then Damien over here says, I do not. Giannina literally ran out of there. After, taking a time to cry, she ran out of there. Her mom was there, And then like he kind of blamed her a little bit because he was like, oh, you can't be good one day and bad the other day and blah 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 blah. Like just 5 days ago you said, oh well, this and that, like you want to be friends, and then now today you're giving me your 100% and stuff like that, and I don't know if I could deal with it. And just like, after she ran away, she did come back and she was like, let's talk about this. Because I'm just like, the thing about it I don't understand is like, why do they even, knowing, like, it's not even like you didn't know, knowing that what you know before even going down the aisle, why did you not have a talk with her or the person that you're engaged with? Why did you not spoke with them, before making them embarrassed? That's what happened. That wedding didn't happen, so they didn't get married. Next wedding we have is, I think it's Amber and Barnett. They said yes. Amber was kind of worried about, Barnett having reservations, but, he came through. Some people have cold feet. They went through, they got married. So that's one of the first couple that got married with the experiment successful. Third wedding was Kelly and Kenny. So it wasn't until like maybe 2 to 3 days before the wedding, like Kelly's with her friends and talking about how, all her other exes, all she cared about was the physical appearance. All she cared about, like, her friends were talking about, all she talked about was the abs of the person that she was with, all that stuff. Like, and I was just like, what? This person's superficial. And then like Kenny's over here, like, being a gentleman. Like, dude had so much class. Obviously, that wedding didn't go through. She walked up to the aisle. She was like, I just see him as my best friend. Nothing more. I don't really feel like a physical attraction to him, whatever. So, the thing is, like, she could have spoke to Kenny and told him this, have a conversation about what she's feeling. I feel like with all the people who said no, at the altar, I feel like they should have talked about it, because you kind of made, like, you could have been like, I don't think I would be able to do this. So Kelly basically left Kenny at the altar. Kenny still had the, class that he always had. He was just like, said good things about her. Even Kelly's mom had to, like, this is such a good guy. But, the cameraman's like, oh, asking, when you could be together in the future. And he was just like, get the camera out my face. Like, I don't know the future, blah, blah. So I saw like the first 15 minutes of the reunion episode, and I know that Kenny is, he's moved on. And it was just like so weird to know that it's been over a year since they filmed the experiment. Like, it's been over a year, like, so it was like, whoa, like over a year? So Kenny has his own, he's the only one who didn't get married but still has, a significant other. So, I mean, he living his best life, he doesn't need Kelly. Kelly's over here still single, which is just like, okay, that's, you traded off a good guy because, I mean, for what? So, let's go. Next, then we have Mark and Jessica's wedding. So, Jessica was by herself. I don't think there was any family members of Jessica at the wedding. I'm not 100% sure, but she did walk herself down the aisle. She didn't even have a bouquet. Like, she just walked herself down the aisle. And then when she got up there, she kissed Mark. So which she wasn't supposed to do, like, in a traditional wedding. So, like, they were all giddy and like, oh my gosh, I love you, and I love you. And then as soon as he was like, can you live forever? Let me stop. But as soon as he was like, oh, this is what you're going to do for the rest of your life, she was like, no. And, like, basically left Mark high and dry at the altar. And then she was like, she doesn't feel sorry about it, which is just like, girl, you don't feel sorry about it? Like, you could have talked to Mark. If you saw how the way she came in for the wedding, she seemed so giddy, like ready to marry this dude. And then at the end, she leaves him high and dry, like, oh, I cannot marry you. And then, like, what? So next thing you know, you got Cameron and Lauren's wedding. You know, Lauren was just so undecided until the day of the wedding, but homegirl, came through. She said yes. Cameron and Lauren are married. They're called the Hamiltons now. So there's nothing bad to like. They're basically, obviously they knew they were like the top tier couple because they're very like, if you see the show, they're like the ones that are advertised, like Cameron and Lauren. You just see Cameron and Lauren advertised everywhere. So it's just like what's up. So in the first 15 minutes of the thing, I know that Amber had some words for Jessica, which were well deserved, even though Jessica did, she didn't go off back at her. It was much needed because watching back and seeing how, Jess was talking to Barnett, even though she was engaged, it just kind of like, you were like being very sneaky about it. So, and I don't know what else happened, but we know that Giannina and Damien are together. So it's like, good job. So you got three couples that are together. You got Lauren and Cameron, Amber and Barnett, and then you have Giannina and Damien who are together. I don't think they're married, but that's three successful couples from this experiment. As you guys know, Cameron and Lauren are that top tier couple. Cameron has that swag. I kind of like figured like that ginger beard, that nonchalant type of attitude. Dude even cried when Lauren was up there and Lauren was wiping away his tears. Let me stop. That was top tier couple. Like Netflix knew it. They knew it. That's why they, focus. They saved their wedding for last. They show them first. Like, you begin with Lauren and Cameron. You end with Lauren and Cameron having a successful wedding. So it's just like, you just know. So, as for people who don't know who Lauren and Cameron are, like, they're like out of the Netflix, like, they're on Twitter, they're on Instagram, like the Shade Room, they're on little radio interviews. So, like, you should know who they are, the Hamiltons, okay? But yeah, so Lauren is black, Cameron is white. They're like the interracial couple, that people like, but like is even beyond them being that, is that their whole attitude and perspective on this show, because as it was being said that they love them for their personality, they had emotional connection before it was based on the looks and appearance. This show is a really good, I guess, show to watch. It's very interesting. So if you guys want to watch this, it's really good. You get to see the breakdown even more in detail of what happened on the show. I kind of binged it because I know there's like more to come on this reunion because I heard it was very hilarious and I just want to see like what went down. But anyway, if you guys like this video, comment down below. Let me know what you want to see in the future. Let me know your thoughts about the show if you watch the show. And if you have not subscribed to my channel. Anyway, peace.